Hey guys, so welcome to the Nerd Morning Show. Today is Batman Day, so we're going to talk about some of the top picks that I have for Batman stories. These are in their collection form, and they're not necessarily the very best of all the very best, but they're pretty close. They're ones that are some of my personal favorites, ones that have impacted me. And ones that I think that if you're trying to go through the full 80 years of Batman and trying to experience some of those stories and get involved in the character, these are really good places to start. So starting out, we have Batman Year One with Frank Miller. This is just a beautiful, beautiful comic. It is supposed to be an Elseworld story, but it became so big and so influential that it is almost all mainstream now. Like most main story timeline issues will reference and talk about things that happen in Frank Miller's story. So that's just a big compliment to Frank Miller being so good at what he does that it's all mainstream, even though it wasn't necessarily supposed to at the beginning. Batman is starting out doing hero work. He doesn't really have the Batman thing figured out yet, and he's been beaten up pretty bad at this point. He sees the bat, breaks through the window. He's bleeding out, and at that point, he decides that he's going to live as Batman in the future. So that's a really big moment. You'll see references to that all the time. He's battling the crime bosses, so the Falcone family, things like that. And in this panel here, he goes and just pretty much freaks them out. And it is one that you'll see referenced again and again. Actually, one of the new Catwoman issues, I think it might be issue 15, actually uses this panel and shows her like that. So that's one you'll see over and over again. This is a beautiful story, involves with different important moments with Commissioner Gordon as he's trying to figure out how to be a cop in Gotham. And at the end, one of the things that I think is cool is last panel, they have a moment where Gordon is introducing Joker, kind of like in Batman Begins. He goes and introduces kind of the future with Joker. So I think that they pulled that actually from that issue. So that one is just so good. Batman The Dark Knight Rises. This series is so good. I have this beautiful collection and it's just awesome. You have in here, you have like this image here is one of the most famous images for Batman. You get Carrie Kelly, who is an awesome Robin, and you get some really fun futuristic type feel fights. You get just really really awesome. And in the last section of the story, you get the big Batman versus Superman fight, which is just big, huge. Like nothing really like this has been happened before. And movies like Batman versus Superman pulled heavily from some of the scenes and moments from there. Next, I have Batman The Long Halloween. Jeff Loeb is one of the best writers. I love everything he does. There are so many of the Jeff Loeb Batman stories that I was like, oh, which one can I pick? Which one do I choose? I love The Long Halloween because it has the Calendar Man villain, and honestly, he's scary. He's a cool bad guy, which you'd not really expect, but every month there's a murder and we know it's going to be on a significant day, and we have to figure that out. So it's kind of like got that big tension. Again, we have him fighting the Falcones. So the mob bosses are still a big part of the story, and I like those. You get some of the Catwoman Batman romance stuff that was introduced as well in Batman Year One, pulls in through here, and I just love that dynamic. And also you get some really great moments with Two-Face, and even in this you get those two dealing and battling against each other and just talking because they have history. They're like, they're friends, and they deal with a lot of these issues that they're going through the story, even almost like together. And I just really love that. The Long Halloween is just a beautiful book, so definitely want to recommend. It's fun because it goes through like month to month, and it's a whole year that the story takes place instead of like a day where a lot of the stories take place that way. Um, every list I think has to include Alan Moore's Batman: The Killing Joke. This is just super influential. It is one of the biggest stories ever. This is the deluxe edition. It's got some remastering in the art. We have different origin stories that are toyed around with for the Joker, which is really fun. We have amazing Batman versus Joker stories here that go on, and it's, I think, one of the best Batman stories that we have ever had. Alan Moore does great with it. Brian Boland with the art is just absolutely amazing. Okay, so moving on, Batman Nightfall Volume 1. There are 3 volumes in the Nightfall series, and they're all absolutely amazing. This one, I think, is one of the biggest ones because it has Batman having his back broken by Bane, which is huge. We see that in like the Dark Knight Rises, and we have it's just one that goes just really carries on. So there's that moment where he gets his back broken, and after that he's paralyzed. He's taken out. Here at the end, after the fight, Bane grabs him, throws him off of the building into the crowd, and he's just down there on the ground. And he says, "I've beaten Batman. I own the city." And we're having stories right now, actually, currently, about Bane owning the city. So we're getting some references back into this. After this, we get a different person to don the Batman costume. So John Paul is in there, and he is a violent villain hero, like anti-hero, that is just a big character to don the suit and be Batman. It just, that way it's pretty complex, but that's an awesome series, and how they have to deal with things moving forward from there. That takes another 2 volumes. So after that, I have Batman No Man's Land. This is volume 1. There are multiple volumes in this story, but this is just a crazy concept. So Gotham is become like unacceptable for the American population. So the government says, we're shutting you down. There's been earthquakes. There's been a contagion virus going around. People are dying. So they invite everyone to leave, and if you don't leave, you're locked in and you're on your own. And so this is really a lot of the basis for Dark Knight Rises again, because we have that type of environment in that film, pulling from the No Man's Land story here. This is just super fun because you have the different villains and police teams fighting for turf. There's a turf war going on, and Batman has to go keep the peace in a city that's living in anarchy. So I just love this story. It is one of the best, and we get some introductions to the fun characters in there as well. Batman Hush is amazing, and if you've watched the movie and you haven't read the book, you're going to get a ton of surprises, because they do a different ending in the movie, and they save it so you can experience Batman Hush and experience the movie, and you'll get a surprise on each of them. This really builds off of kind of the Bat-Cat relationship in there. So we've got this big moment where Batman actually reveals his identity to Catwoman, which is a really huge moment. And then as well, as I flipped to before, is we get an awesome Batman versus Superman moment. This combat is just amazing. We get to find out who Hush is, and have that mystery throughout the story, and we see so many heroes and so many villains that this story is just absolutely amazing. It's another Jeff Loeb, which I tell you, everything that Jeff Loeb writes is just awesome. And the art by Jim Lee, and he is my art hero. I love his work. I am just such a huge fan. They re-released this and in trade form just recently. This is one of the older trades, but if you're looking to read that, it's going to be really easy to find in the comic shops. Batman Under the Red Hood is, again, just a timeless piece. We had a huge moment where Jason Todd, second Robin, he in the comics, you could call and vote if you wanted Jason Todd to live or die after he got captured by the Joker. And the audiences said, kill him. I guess we don't like him. And he died. And for years, we just kind of moved on. We got Tim Drake as a new Robin. Batman Under the Red Hood brings him back to life and brings him back as a villain. He later gets to become more of an anti-hero, but in this one, he's quite the antagonist. I love their versus elements that they have throughout this. Here's a really cool cover done by Jacques. I just love that. And going in farther, we see Red Hood going against all the different crime bosses. So we've got Black Mask here, and he just kind of like contacts him and then like waves and then shoots a rocket launcher at him. And I just love that moment. It's super crazy. And he just goes and just attacks all of these guys and takes over the underworld. We end with the biggest standoff between Batman, Red Hood, and Joker. And it is just heart-wrenching. It's so moving. And it really challenges a lot of the moralities that Batman has. And in a way that I just think is super, super great. This is a beautiful book. If you are looking for something that's pretty intense, this is a really great one. Again, it goes through lots of the Rogues Gallery as well. Batman Endgame is one of the newer ones. This was in the end of the New 52 run for Batman. And it is just amazing. I got the Joker printing of that. It's a collection that carries a little bit more than the Batman collection from some of the other issues as well that kind of adjoin and link into this. It starts off with Batman having to fight against his the Justice League because they've been Joker venomed. And we have throughout this a really, really intense versus between Joker and Bruce, you know, as Batman. And it is just super intense. Joker is pulling out all the stops. In fact, all of the city is pretty much been Joker venomed, and so we're just running crazy here. And he can't get a lot of support from the Justice League because they're recouping after being Joker venomed themselves. And it goes in and ends with the biggest versus moment between Joker and Batman. And at the end, they're even, pretty much fighting to the death. And it doesn't look like either of them are really getting out of the cave. So in this, as well as they find some other alternative origin stories for Joker, and they go in with those moments to explore things like the Lazarus pits and different like nth metal type elements that lead into stories like metal, and this really builds off from there. Also, Batman and Joker both disappear at the end of this story, leaving room for Jim Gordon to actually don the bat suit for about a year. He does that in the different issues, and that's a really, really fun run, and it's only really possible because of Endgame. This one just blew me away when I read it. I was just turning the page just in shock and in awe of some of the other different things that I haven't mentioned that they did in this. So finally, my last one that I'm going to talk about today is I Am Gotham. This is an introduction to the Rebirth, which is the current stuff that they're doing right now. It's with Tom King. I love Tom King's writing, all the different things that he's done. He's been pretty controversial, actually, but it really introduces a lot to that. So they have the Rebirth issue 1, and then it starts with the first 6 issues. And issue 1 in this series is probably one of my all-time favorite Batman issues. You have him going against a crashing airplane, and he's just like, there are things that Batman can't do, and he sees some of the limits, and he's like willing to sacrifice his life to save as many people as he can and minimize the damage, because that's what Batman does. That's what he's about. Of course, he does not die, and that's because we are introduced to Gotham Girl and Gotham, and they are two new superpowered humans who are in Gotham. And Gotham has been such a human-based, non-power type of environment for the heroes. All the heroes are mostly ordinary people like Batman stepping up and becoming heroes, that we get to see a very different type of face of hero inside of Gotham. In that, though, both Gotham Girl and Gotham have a lot of complexity to them, and we get to see a lot more depth in things that Tom King gets to write. One of the coolest moments in here, though, is there comes a moment where Alfred needs to come in and help. So he actually dons the bat suit, drives in. At the end, we were saying that he's going nearly 200 miles an hour to get to where he's needing to go to help. And I just love seeing Alfred throw on the cape and be Batman for a moment, which is just super, super awesome. Also in there, we get a lot of the introduction of how we're able to move forward in the story with the Batman-Catwoman dynamic. This leads into, of course, heads towards the wedding, and ramifications of this in the next several issues, the series, lead up to things that are going on currently right now in Batman. So those are my top picks that I had for Batman right now. I just am a huge, huge Batman fan. So today is a happy, exciting day. These are some of my top picks. What other ones would you guys include? I had so many others that I wanted to talk about. But given its sake of time, we had to make some limitations there. So yeah, what were your top picks? What ones do you think are the most important or influential Batman moments? Let me know in the comments, and if you like these videos, you want me to do some more stuff like this, let me know as well. Thanks.